when God redeems you, he says, now share your testimony, preach the gospel. And this is my gospel. So on my Instagram with 132,000 followers, I make reels about how I killed my own baby and what it did to me and how can I stop other women from doing this. And so many women will DM me.
I bet.
Some of them will be brave enough to comment. And it is astounding how many women have been through it. And I think, okay, see, now you're all telling me that you've been through it, but are you using that?
Right.
She's truly a breath of fresh air. Tracey ignites dreams. And when you walk away from a meeting with Tracey Martin, you walk away with what I call a ripple effect.
And the type of energy that was radiating from her was like a ripple effect. I never met someone like her before, and I knew that her intentions were pure and she spoke nothing but the truth.
I couldn't imagine, honestly, anybody else who I've ever met in my life being as helpful as Tracey's been towards me and the rest of my family.
Whatever problem you've got, however dark it may be, there is no judgment, there is no finger pointing, there is only healing.
Check in with Tracey. Do the work. You got this.
Welcome to the TLM Method Podcast. I'm your host, Tracey Martin. This podcast exists to amplify the voices of Gen Z and those that are creating change in the world. To call parents to action in raising healthy, whole young adults, and to counteract the current cultural narrative that is giving you permission and at times encouraging you to live an immoral and mediocre life. I'm not calling you out, I'm calling you to action in your own life. A few years ago, a friend of mine said to me, "Hey T, you're the stone that's thrown in the water, and the clients that you work with and the people that hear you speak are the ripple effect that go out and create change in the world." That's what I'm doing. I'm calling you to action and calling you to create your own ripple effect of change. Hello and welcome back to the TLM Method Podcast. I'm your host, T, and I always talk about this when I have someone in studio because it's not just me ranting. I get to actually share some great information. And so I am going to hand the mic over to Lindsey Graham. I am so excited to have her in studio with me. I know that it's a drive for you to get here, first of all. Anytime someone is willing to make that drive to be with us, I think it's really valuable. So I'm going to let Lindsey talk a little bit about her background, and then we're just going to dive into her mission, what she's focusing on, how she got here, and just how I connected with her, things that really popped up and resonated with me through her Instagram content that I think is really important to share. And at the end of the show, everything will be in the show notes. We'll get all the information, all the contact information, and share with you guys and make sure you can find her. So Lindsey, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. And I know it was a drive for you to get here.
So it's like 75 out now, 80. So I got the window down, like just
not a problem, right?
And worshiping on the way here.
So first of all, really quick, so the other part that you go by is the Patriot Barbie. So how did that come about?
Oh, I love that question. Okay. So we have to go back to 2020, which I'm like most famously known for reopening my salon against the lockdowns.
Yes.
And in doing so, I became like a global news story and was getting praised by the right and completely tortured
Condemned.
by the left. And I would say I had endured like two straight months of just nonstop attacks and harassment. And what was happening was I was becoming aware of like their tactics, you know? Mm-hmm. It doesn't last long before you're like, oh, they're calling me names and I'm not really that person, so it's not offensive anymore, right?
Yeah.
You can call me a racist. I'm not actually racist, so.
Right.
And I had gotten so used to their attacks. I had built up just an immunity and kind of a brush off. Well, one of them made a meme out of my face wearing my Make America Great Again hat and wrote, I don't always play Patriot Barbie, but when I do, I kill people's grandmas and I steal their money. And I was like, Patriot Barbie.
That's classic.
Like, of all the things to be called, right? So I looked up the word patriot, and it was, to defend one's country and love one's country. And I was like, okay. Looked up the word Barbie, and it was like what you would expect, an American doll that is supposed to be the ideal.
The quintessential,
yes. And I was like, this is what you've called me. I accept. So I changed. I changed all my social media to say Patriot Barbie just to poke it back at whoever this person was. And I'm picture. It helps me sleep at night. I picture that person. That's not what I meant. Like
Yeah.
throwing a fit, and
That's
now
awesome.
I'm like known as the Patriot Barbie. It totally took off. So
No, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really
fun.
good. And back in 2020, I think like a lot of us that are out there in like your business, I felt like I was in triage for a year.
Yeah.
I like jumped in with families, jumped in with people just like you did, and like a lot of people did. What was it for you? So I know you were protecting your livelihood and your salon and all that kind of stuff. But above and beyond that, what did you see? Because I think a lot of people go micro, right? And they think, oh, wow, this is an attack on me. But it's actually an attack on an entire generation. I think that, and that's what really hit me was that. So what was that like whenever you realized, wait a minute, this is not just something I can just roll over with?
Like the threats and the cancel
Yeah.
culture. Yeah. So it just seemed so when you get it as they're very dumb in the sense that
Yeah.
they gather their friends to do it. And then it has less of an impact when you start looking at the comments and who's making them and going, okay, it's like a certain genre of children,
Right.
all young, millennial, white, liberal, racist, fascist children.
Right.
And not moms, not dads, not grown adults, not professionals.
Not for people that actually
All-American.
have a conscious and understand
Yes.
the consequences of this.
Yes, yes. And so when they slather you with that kind of hate and you start kind of researching like, man, why do so many people have this feeling about me specifically? For me, I looked in the mirror and I was like, I didn't change. I'm the same. I had clients that I had done their hair for 10 years text me and say, I never knew you were such a Trump supporting racist. And I was like, I didn't change.
Exactly,
At all.
exactly.
Like, you still know who I am. I did your hair for 10 years. I did your daughter's hair. You loved me.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you found out that I allegedly, potentially voted for Trump, you hate me. And I went, that's a you problem.
But isn't it interesting? And I had the same thing. I had people that had known me for 15 years, the same thing that I've been in service to their families, the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting part is it's like you have to wonder what came first. They have a history with you. They have an emotional contract with you, basically.
Yeah.
You know, that you had not only business, but emotional. Because, I mean, when you do what you do.
They
you-
spill everything. to me.
Exactly. You know,
we
you know everything.
intimate details, yeah.
Exactly. And then they attach that political label to it.
yeah.
And then all hell breaks loose.
Yep.
So mentally, I perceived a lot of these people, and I'm sure you went through them, are very mentally weak.
Mm-hmm.
They're very mentally weak. And even whether you want to put a label of political or not, personal development and accountability is a conservative value.
It is.
And
It absolutely
most people
is.
don't want to
Yes.
say that.
Yeah.
So what did you find out about your clients?
I found out that there was levels of people. There was those who so vehemently disagreed with what I did as a liberal, as a leftist, as a Democrat, that they lowered themselves into sending me hate mail, hate emails, canceling their appointments and telling me why. Remove me from your email list. You're this, 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 and this. Okay, wow. Well, goodbye. I don't need you anyway.
Right.
And then there was the people that secretly supported me, which is still kind of sad. They were too scared to publicly admit or defend me online for the sake of the mob turning towards them. And then there were people that were like, we are proud of you. How can I come to your salon? I'm ditching my stylist just to come to you. Like
To
3
support you.
categories of people, yeah. And I was so impressed with the amount of people that were basically like, it's not because you're open. I don't need my hair done. It's because I want to come and literally support you. And give you
And
money.
that second demographic that you're talking about, I think that's why we are where we are, is because they're so terrified and fear-based that they can't get out of their own way of wanting to support and everyone to love them. You're not a golden retriever. You can't make everybody happy, right? But standing on a conviction, you know, whether it's a person, a business, an ideal, or whatever it is, that second demographic, I think, is one of the reasons why we're still having some of these conversations.
Yep.
Is because they didn't, and I hate to say even the balls or the guts or whatever you
didn't
want to
have
say,
the balls.
right? But I mean, it's like, and I don't even know if it's that so much or if it's their own self that they're not sure yet. They know that they like you and they believe you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yet they're not like, well, what do I really believe?
Right.
And then if you're like, that's why I meant like the mental toughness, like having
Yeah.
that conviction. If you are faced with stand on this hill or you lose your life,
Right.
and if you have faith in Christ in your life,
Right.
you stand on the hill.
Yep. So 3 super amazing points that I just kind of hopefully I can remember, is one, how sad that they would sit back and watch me be terrorized. I mean, terrorized. And then say, well, I don't want to support you because I don't want that to happen to me. But you see how bad it is for me. Wouldn't that motivate you to come to my rescue and support me more? Like defend me more because you see how badly I'm taking the hits for everyone?
And what if that was them?
Exactly. And I thought, gosh, I will come to the rescue if I see that happening to anyone because I know what it feels like and how people would, well, I don't want to support you, but I don't want to take it.
I'm the
It's
first one in line, just like
that's
you
so
are.
sad.
Yeah.
Second, I went to Freedom Night last night with Charlie Kirk and Dennis Prager, and somebody said something about
I almost went.
Oh, it was so good. Oh, Dennis Prager is so good. And someone asked him the question, what do we do as conservatives when we feel like we're an echo chamber? Don't we feel like sometimes we're preaching to the choir? And I don't know if he came up with this at that moment, but it was amazing. And he said, you know what? We need to be preaching to everybody, but we need to be preaching to the choir because right now they forgot the rhythm. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
So good.
He's like, somebody has to teach the choir the rhythm and then continue to remind them of what the rhythm is. And he said, we're in this place today because either no one's joining the choir or they don't know what they're singing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the analogies are just amazing.
No, it's so
amazing.
good. And it's almost like there's a thing called the bystander effect. I don't know if you've ever seen that before.
I don't know what that is, but I feel like I've experienced.
So, and I saw this video this girl did, and I mean, you've heard like when somebody's being attacked, people would rather film it than help or whatever.
Yes,
and
I've
this
done
girl
reels on
had
this.
the best metaphor. She said she was 16 years old in her biology class. And her teacher, who was normally really jovial and kind, he said, everyone get in your seats, sit down and shut up. And everybody got in there like, what the heck? And she said that the chairs were in a circle. And in the middle of in the middle of here was a round table, and there was a fishbowl in the middle with a goldfish. And she said, and he just said, no matter what happens, you sit in your chair, you shut up, you don't question anything. And he just went off. And then he took the goldfish out and he put it on the desk. And everyone,
poor goldfish.
everyone sat there and just watched and watched and watched. And she said, and I'm sitting here watching and nobody moved. Everyone wanted the other person to do it. It was such a great analogy. And one girl, after, she said it seemed like forever, it was like 3 minutes. She said one girl goes, fuck this, picked the goldfish up, put it back in the water, and the teacher came in and opened the door and he goes, look what the world has done to you all. Yep. How powerful is that?
Oh my gosh, I had goosebumps.
I mean, and it was so, and then the girl that said it, she goes, and she's like 30 now, and she goes, it's, and we've heard it, the bystander effect, but she said that made me realize that never again will I just stand by and watch something.
Who is this woman?
I know, it's crazy, right? I have to find her on Instagram. It's crazy because when she said that and the whole analogy and the way that they did it, and when he came in and said, look what that's exactly what Dennis Prager is talking about. Look, you're so comfortable. Life is too easy for you.
You are so obedient.
Completely. You literally have forgotten. And I think if we thought we were never going to have to fight for freedom, we're very naive at this point. Yeah. So where are you? So once you went through all this, what was like? I know there's a legal battle with. I mean, what you went through with all of the salon stuff. Yeah. What was the education you had to educate yourself for on that? Because you had to.
Well, I got way too much information like at once. I had people sending me clips of the Constitution and clips of all that. And I was like, I'm not a lawyer. And mind you, while this was all happening, I still have 3 kids, right? I had a brand new baby, a 6-week-old baby when this happened.
Oh my goodness.
I had 3 kids. We still had 6 businesses that we were trying to figure out, like, are they going to reopen? Are we closing? How do we pay our bills? I had the media totally following me and wanting to interview me. I had podcasts. I had interviews all the time. And I was trying to actually do hair. Actually do hair, which is the point, making money. So then I'm like, I actually don't have time for a lawsuit or like to look into this stuff. So thank God, people just kind of started coming forward to help me. Nice. It was kind of like, hey, this is my box. Can I just give this box to you? I trust you. And so I had an attorney start digging through everything. And it's kind of ironic. Like, he ended up getting out of he ended up stop being a lawyer like 2021. And I go, okay, well, I'll find a new attorney. And I couldn't find a new attorney. It was getting stressful. Time was running out to file the whatever, right? I'm like, just take care of it box. And I go, you know what, Lord, I'm going to let it go. You've put me on a new path. I don't need to sue anybody. What's done is done. I believe you're going to make it good. And I'm going I'm going to just drop it. And I did. And like a week later, an attorney came forward and said, I will take your case. I will take it on contingency. I will never charge you a dime. And I said, okay, I was going to let this go, but okay. It was almost like God was like, stop trying to handle everything yourself.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah.
And so we are currently in the process now, still 3 years later,
Wow.
of him drafting a new lawsuit. And I honestly think, I mean, I know, that God works all things for good, right?
Yes.
That his timing is perfect and he knows the plans.
we,
And
we get in our own way.
yeah, and I just, that's why I can let things go. And then I believe that he is timing it because it's all starting to come out now. Like even the first year, 2020 to 2021, people were still like, well, it was still COVID. It was still a pandemic. Blah, blah. Yes, it was a disease or a virus. It was there, yes. But now here we are 3 years later, and we're going, it's coming out. Masks didn't work. Lockdowns didn't work. They were unconstitutional. Businesses, and now we're operating as if COVID didn't exist, but it still allegedly exists.
Yeah.
So then technically that never should have happened.
Right.
So
right.
I feel like when we get to court, we're going to have stacks of evidence
Oh,
that
yeah.
like, you never should have locked me down. So that's my entire
Well,
case.
and I know it 100%. And I think, too, what you said is starting to come out now. People that would never speak up before now are like, okay, now I'm comfortable talking about
Right.
it.
I'm not alone.
There's the instigators.
Yep.
There's the trailblazers. And there's the people that are like, oh, it's safe to come out now. You
They're
know?
like peeking out.
Seriously,
Other
right?
people agree? Okay. I'm out.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've got the majority, so now I'm safe, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So what is it for you? I'm going to dig on you a little bit.
I love it.
What is it for you? Why do you think that you had the strength and the conviction to go through what you went through when other people just shut it down? What was different about you?
There is one very distinct difference about me, and I believe it's that God called me to it. I believe that that's it. I don't need anything else to justify it. But I can look back on my life at a lot of really, really bad decisions that I made in my 20s that I always wondered, okay, I did these bad things. I know they were wrong. I've asked for forgiveness. God has forgiven me. He's made me new. I am redeemed. But how is he going to make them good? Because if I believe that he's going to, I'm waiting, right? And I think that time started in 2020. I think that even though I didn't pray or consult God, should I open my salon? He knows who I am. He's prepared me. He made me hard-headed. He made me determined, driven. He made me easily convicted in my beliefs. He made me grounded. He gave me confidence. My family was raised very confident. I've always known who I am and never apologized or tried to be anything other than what I truly am, authentic, right?
Yeah.
And so all of those things are my identity in Christ. All of those things come from knowing who I am as a creation by God. And I think that in 2020, he had every intention of going flick and like putting this idea in my mind.
Right.
I need to work. I do need to work, actually.
Yeah.
I need to provide for my family, and I'm doing this. And when it started getting hard, I was like, well, I still believe in what I'm doing. That's the difference, right? Do
Right.
I believe in what I'm doing? And the
Right.
answer is yes. So I either let them bully me into backing down, which then means I'm either weak or I don't really believe in what I'm doing.
Exactly.
And as the threats came every single day, it was like, if I back down now, they know they can win. They know they can torment me into shutting me up. I'm a sellout because I said I believed in what I'm doing, and now I'm not willing to. Now I'm not willing
fight
to
for
at
it.
any cost, like I
Yeah.
said. Or, my character can be bought. I can
Right.
give up what I believe in and stand for one little threat. And there's a story that I love to tell. My friend Melissa worked at my salon, and I'd been friends with her in high school, was a bridesmaid in her wedding, very close friends. And at some point, our county was locked down still, but the next county, which was 20 minutes down the road, the governor was like, you can be open, whatever. So all of my stylists had gotten threats saying, if you continue to work at Glamour Salon, we're going to revoke your cosmetology license, which is their livelihood. They all got the letters. I got the letter. They came to me, and these are my 3 left, like, loyal stylists out of 25. And they said, we're going to pack our things, and we're going to go work in Albany because we can't lose our license. And I said, and that's okay.
Yeah.
This is my fight, right? I understand. So we're just going to go do that. And when we can open, we're coming back to you. And I said, good. Okay, I'll be here. And Melissa, my friend, said, well, you're coming with us, right? And I said, no. And she goes, but you have to come with us. You can't lose your license. I said, I'm not going to lose my license. And she started crying and said, Lindsey, I have known you your whole life. I cannot stand here and watch you lose everything. And I started crying and I said, I have to do this. I can't be weak. I can't crumble. I can't let them know that this is where I give up. This is the line that I draw.
This is your line.
And she said, she shook her head and said, okay, well, God love you for your stand. And she left me there, and they all left me there, and I was working in my salon by myself for a few days. And the ironic thing is, of course, that I did lose all those businesses. But at the time, I didn't want to lose them because I was willing to compromise what I was standing for.
What's your integrity at that point?
Yes.
I think that, and I think that that's really what, when you said a minute ago, people can be bought, right?
Right.
So it's like, if you say something, and I'm bad like that, if I say it, I got to do it.
Yep.
Either that or
Yes.
I'm going to shut my
Yep.
mouth.
Yep.
I'm like one or the other.
Delete it off Facebook.
If it's out there, yeah, here I go. But I think that when you said, you were prepared for that, and I believe that. I believe there are women that have gone through so much when they were younger. I mean, I'm right there with you. A lot of women are, and that's the difference. Those are the ones, it's like we look at a generation now that have been coddled and have been protected. And a lot of times it's not their fault, right? We're the leaders. What are we doing?
Right.
But then the other time you look back and you look at like the adversity is really what built you. And
Yes.
when people say I'm built different, well, hell yeah, you are because of what you went through.
Right.
And witnessing that, whether you know it or not, you left a big imprint on all these people around you because they witnessed a result of that adversity. So take me back a little bit to when you said your 20s. So what do you think adversity-wise, when you said God prepared you, and I believe that too, babe. I truly believe that it's like I am so blessed with the same way of like going, okay, God, you want me to go through that?
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully you've equipped me.
Yes.
I'm going, right?
Yep.
So in your 20s, when we say the journey of adversity is really meant for us, right? Not against us.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I was raised in a Christian home by a conservative family. In my teens was so good. I mean, I didn't cuss, I didn't drink, I never tried to sing. I was like so good. Didn't date. I couldn't even hold boys' hands. I wasn't shy, but I was like, oh, I don't know what this is.
Cooties.
I was like so. I don't want to say sheltered because I almost was just, my innocence was protected.
Yeah.
I didn't hit puberty till I was 17.
Yeah.
Like I had my baby fat. I didn't wear makeup. I wore my brother's clothes.
But innocence is exactly the word.
Yes, my innocence. I believe God preserved my innocence in a situation where certainly I would have fit in just fine with the popular girls smoking pot and doing cheerleading.
Yeah.
But God didn't have that for me. And but in my 20s, when I was let kind of loose, that vibrant personality said, "Ooh, well, you know what? Let's live a little," and that turned into drinking underage at 20. So at 20, this all started. Drinking, and then I started dabbling in drugs. So my mentality was kind of like, I'll try it. Like, I'll try it.
Yeah.
To me, life was about, I want to try everything once. And I still live that way, but not bad things, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to try everything once.
Right. We discern it now.
I'm going to try the good stuff once.
Yeah.
So, but at this point, I was kind of just falling off the deep end would be the best term for it. So I was dabbling in coke. Maybe acid one point. There was something that was a big like rave pill back then. I was like, I'll try that. Tried it. That led to basically me losing my job, which was a great job at the time. I was a flight attendant. Lost my job. Watched a girlfriend who was a dancer making all this money. And I went, why am I sitting here broke? I should just do that. I mean, like, it's crazy. The devil gets a hold of your heart.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden,
It doesn't look
you're
so
just-
bad.
Yeah, nothing. There is no, I mean, I wasn't in the Bible. I wasn't praying. I was very distant from the Lord.
Well, you kind of leave your moral compass.
Yes, it was my moral compass. Was so then I started dancing. And so I'm dancing, doing drugs. I mean, total party lifestyle. Somehow I'm still managing to like attend church every now and then with my parents. And I met this man, unfortunately, at church. And he was very much a false prophet. He, from the outside, looked like all things wonderful, had a good job, successful, drove a nice truck, dressed nice, attractive. But he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. And, I'm thankful to him, for him, right? Because God used him for this season in my life. Because I looked at the idea of him and I said,
Right.
gosh, I'm a meth addict stripper. Like, that is not what I want to be. I mean,
Right,
I know
right.
this. I wanted to be married and have kids and, like, have a family.
It was against
like,
your identity.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. And so for the idea of him, I stopped dancing. I quit. And then this throughout our relationship, he, of course, demanded that I stop doing drugs, but God did not want him to get the glory for anything. So I was hiding drugs from him. So I was still a functioning meth addict. I don't know how that's even possible. But and then one day God told me, people say, like, God said the words, you're done.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know where the words came from. I didn't hear them. But
You know.
I know that the words were,
It's
you're
a
done.
knowing.
You're done.
Mm-hmm.
So I flushed my meth down the sink and I never used again. I prayed. I withdrew all by
good.
myself quietly. And
But
never
then, but
used
then
again.
it was yours.
It was
It was
mine and
yours.
God's. Yep.
Yep.
It was our battle that we fought together.
Right.
And I can't give anyone else credit, not
Yep.
even myself, because why wouldn't I have just quit on my own when I felt like it?
Right.
So while this is all happening, this man has gone from being emotionally abusive to verbally abusive to physically abusive, strangling, suffocating, throwing, everything but pretty much like punching me in the face.
Yeah.
And I had become, he had taught me to become such a weak person, questioning my morals, my ethics, obviously,
Conditioned.
which were questionable when
Yeah.
he met me, but my Christianity. So I'd given everything back to God, and to this man, that wasn't enough. I was still just this, horrific sinner. He beat me down, of course, emotionally, and so my identity didn't exist. I didn't know who I was, so it was easy for me to take abuse as a cliche abused woman. And at one point, I got pregnant. We were broken up because we were always broken up and back together. He said, "You're a liar. I don't believe you." So then it became this like, my goal was, well, I am pregnant, so we've got to figure this out. You and I get back together, raise a family. Like, this
What
is
are
a
we gonna
blessing.
do?
Yeah. And once I was able to prove that I was pregnant, he went through a series of techniques trying to gaslight and manipulate me into aborting my baby. And I continued to fight those off repeatedly. But, gosh, I can't imagine being this person again. But he finally convinced me, if you will, by saying, look, I want to marry you. I want to have a family. I want to do this the right way. Like, I want it to be the church way and in God's eyes. And he's so manipulative. So let's abort this one, and then we'll get married and we'll do everything right. We'll have kids. And my stupid brain went,
Yeah.
oh, that's what we should do. That's a good plan,
Yeah.
right?
That's what you thought you were worthy of, though.
Yes. Gosh, and can you imagine wanting to be married to a man like that?
I know.
So, even though I had agreed that was, I guess, the best plan forward, I kept avoiding it, thinking he would change his mind. And I still kept, like, buying maternity clothes, thinking that
Yeah. You were
my
still
mind
gonna
and my
go.
body were doing different things.
Yeah.
And he came to my birthday party and pulled me aside and told me he'd made an appointment for me to abort the baby the next day. So he drove me to the abortion clinic. I was so distraught. I was talking to some older lady that I think worked at Nike. You remember the randomest things?
Yeah.
And she said, you need to get like more medicine. You're like freaking out. So I'm really sad now to look back and say, wow, no one tried to like help me into, hey, maybe you're not making the right decision. It was more like medicate her more. So I was overly medicated. I was kind of out of my own body. Like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Got the abortion. It was very painful, unlike what they say, when they're sucking a human
Heard
life
that
out of
many
you.
times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not painless. And when by the way, he was not there for this. Like he left. He had to work this whole time. So he dropped me off.
You
Said
go
he
through it yourself.
Took a job. Oh, sorry. I wish I would have. No. He didn't know you booked it. But went and did a job, magically was like, I'm trying to rush back. Was able to magically get done with the job like right when I was done and needed picked up. So he pulled up, didn't get out of the truck, let the nurse wheelchair me over, let the nurse lift me up into the truck. And the first thing he said to me when I got in the truck was, I can't believe you went through with it. You just killed your baby.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know what feeling I had, except that like it was the ultimate trickery. It was like the ultimate serpent. Do this. Oh my gosh, I can't.
You actually did it.
You,
wow.
I mean, no responsibility for the fact that he pushed it, he pressured it, he manipulated it.
He orchestrated it.
He threatened it, he orchestrated it, he scheduled it, he took me, he picked, like, I was just so,
How much older was he than you?
Like 5 or 6 years. So yeah, he was able to, certainly manipulate and take advantage of my weaknesses. But man, I think about women in that situation and how I can look back now and be okay because I know who I am now. But the trauma that women go through when that's like an extreme case of someone doing that to you and then further accusing
it's
you.
layered at that point.
Yes.
I mean the trauma, the whole thing is just layered, and I think that's one of the biggest, I don't know, with lack of a better word, of a crime against humanity, really. I mean, I think that it's whenever the messages today are one way, but whenever you put a face to it and a human story to it, which you can't escape it because it is a human life.
Yes.
I think that that's one of the most tragic things that anyone can go through, especially as a mom.
Yeah. And you know what? A lot of these girls do not know how it's going to affect them until they have their own child later. Because I was able to, of course, dump this guy eventually.
Right.
I was able to get back into a good church and give my baby to God at an altar on my knees and seek that forgiveness and forgive myself. But it was when I had my first child that I realized there is one that like doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's one that I killed. There's one, in heaven waiting for me, but still that person doesn't exist. And you think about how hurtful it is to lose someone a sister, a daughter, an aunt, a mom. That's the kind of mourning that we should feel over each abortion. That is a person that does not exist now. And even though we don't know what they look like or their character or their personality or their laugh or their, mannerisms, that person should have existed and they should be mourned for their death later in life. They just never got that life.
Well, it's almost like we've forgotten the number one thing of a mother is protection. Protecting that, and I think I think that conversation more than anything needs to be had, because I have 2 daughters, and my oldest one just had a little boy, and I can't imagine, I cannot, and I know plenty of people who've gone through that. I can't even imagine, and to have that, I had a similar story as yours with, I've never done the drugs, but was married before, very abusive. Pretty crazy, gun to my head, the whole thing. And I made an intentional decision not to have kids, and that was a manipulative thing on mine, but it was almost like God was like, you can't be connected to this person for the rest of my life. So that was an interesting God wink on that too. Yeah. But I think things like that, Lindsey, when I said the adversity grows you, I think that's why a lot of people that have gone through that, like what you've gone through, I think that's why you can see through what's happening in our world today. Because it's almost like a relationship with an abusive person.
Yes.
Of what we're... it is, right? It's almost like, especially back in 2020, it was almost like that. People kept throwing around gaslighting this. I go, yeah, but take it back to what it really is. And it really is, it's for your own good. No, it's not. It's like it's like what you went through. This is for your own good. It's like, no, there's such a level of talk about mental illness. But there's such a level that nobody's willing to see that layer. And I'm like, no, those of us, and I've talked to a lot of women, those of us have gone through something like that, or a domestic violence situation, or whatever it might be, or abuse. We saw it faster.
Yes. Well, there's things that aren't quite as obvious. You would have to be in an abusive relationship to recognize, besides the manipulation and the threats and the gaslighting, there's also the isolation technique. An abuser always
Yes.
isolates his victim so that no one else can say, hey, things aren't right with you guys, or hey, he shouldn't talk to you that way.
And they
or,
care about you so much that they're
Yes.
putting you here to keep you safe.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
And so to me, the isolation factor was huge. The government is saying, first of all, we know better than you, which can't possibly be true.
Exactly.
And second of all, it's for your own good. This is to keep you safe. And I'm thinking, it is not safe or healthy for people to be, and the Bible says it, it's not good for man to be alone. It's not safe for people to be isolated from
No.
their community, from their friends in school, from their workplace. It's not normal. But to
No.
me, I think, well, why would you do that? Unless it was to further an agenda. Okay, well, now we're stacking up the I know better than you, the isolation, the it's for your own good, the manipulation,
Protection,
the
it's
gaslighting,
safer.
the threats. Yes,
Yeah,
everything.
all that. And I don't think we're taking into consideration like those of us that are older coming out of this, but the younger generations and the kids and what they've missed out on and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'm sorry that you went through that because I it's difficult, but but I was just gonna say, but I'm great, and I understand it when people as a coach, people are like, something happened. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy because now we can go
Yeah.
to the next level. Now we
Yeah.
can go to the next level,
Yeah.
and people look at you like, what? I'm like, just trust me. Let's just get
Yeah.
there. But I am. I mean, even like when you've gone through something like that and you have, and the caveat I think is that you have a relationship with Christ. I think that you realize no matter what it is, it will be made for good.
Right.
No matter
Yes,
what it is. I
absolutely.
think
Yeah.
otherwise you sit in your shit and you continue to revolve around it, and
Yeah.
then you go to a traditional modality of therapy or counseling or psychiatry, which is so broken, and then makes you continue to stay there. And there's no level of actually evolving out of it. And that's what you did. I mean, I think that that's a big thing. So when you look at everything that you've gone through over the last 4 years, and then being prepared in your younger years, right now where you are, what is your mission driven? What is your mission focus right now as far as like what you want to do now?
I really, really want to focus on the salvation of women's rights, true rights, the salvation of the identity of women, bringing people to Jesus in the most non-traditional way. I mean, I'm clearly not a traditional Christian. These are not part of my 20s. These are actually recent. So, babies. I want to save babies' lives. Like if I could be outside of an abortion clinic talking to women with love and saying, look, I get why you think you need to do this, but let me tell you what's really going to happen, and then you make your choice. I wish that I could save every baby. I mean, and save every woman in the process, because women don't realize how badly it's going to hurt them. And I'm not ashamed of my past anymore. I mean, that's another thing that.
Well, you wear it. You wear it.
You
You
can
have
go
to.
through these things and they can sit there, but when God redeems you, he says, now share your testimony and preach the gospel. And this is my gospel. So on my Instagram with 132,000 followers, I make reels about how I killed my own baby and what it did to me and how can I stop other women from doing this. And so many women will DM me.
I bet.
Some of them will be brave enough to comment. And it is astounding how many women have been through it. And I think, okay, see, now you're all telling me that you've been through it, but are you using that?
Right.
And God has given me such a unique gift. I believe that he is like growing my Instagram and growing my calling and putting me on stages so that I can do these things for good, not just
very few
be on
people
stage.
will speak. I mean, like my oldest daughter, our whole family's gone through tons of stuff too, but it's the same thing, Lindsey. It's like it's been given to you. And when you go through something like that, I mean, I don't know what your process is, but I know for me, when I've gone through some really difficult things, like with my oldest daughter, and I just like, okay, God, are you sure? Are you sure we're good with this?
Give me another confirmation.
I know. Let me just make positive here. But I think then you start to surrender. And I think that's such a beautiful word to use with the message of Christ, because it's like, you know what? He's got this.
Yeah.
He's figured this out. I just have to show up and have faith and be surrendered in that moment. And I see more and more of that happening today, even with resistance, with people are like, well, I'm just not sure, but I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that to me, that's show me the downside.
Right.
Just show me the downside.
Gosh, thank you. I tell people, I'm like, because I'll have comments every now and then from a crazy leftist on,
We love those.
oh, you believe in the daddy in the sky. And I'm like, all right. You believe in like manifestation, karma, bad vibes, Mother Nature, those are all things that don't exist. And
Source.
you believe in them, right?
Yeah.
Put it out in the world, put it out in the energy. And
Yeah.
you believe
Universe
in those
has my back.
things. Yeah, the universe, which are not tangible, you
Right.
can't touch. Just put them under this little umbrella called God. Just try it. What is the harm?
Right.
What is the harm in you saying, all right, Lord, I'm going to believe in you for like a month, truly. I'm going to
Yeah.
give my life to you for a
And
month.
be all in.
You can always turn away from God. It's like literally a no contract thing.
You have free will.
Yeah. Just give your life to God for 1 month. There's no negatives. What happens? Okay, maybe you have faith.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that faith isn't justified, at least you're a better person for
You have
having
faith in something, even if you're on the other side.
You have faith you're going to wake up in the morning,
Exactly.
and you bank on that. You set your coffee pot at night, so you believe in something. Take that, put it under the umbrella of, instead of manifesting, it's God's faithfulness. Instead of the universe, it's God. Instead of karma, it's His discipline. And instead of whatever you would call, your faith, it's the belief in Him.
Right.
And it does like no harm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
That's why I
like-
tell people, show me the downside. I mean,
Yeah.
if there's a downside, I'd love to know it. And we do know people that have been harmed by the church. We know people that have
Yeah.
been harmed. I mean, that is something that you cannot get away from. I mean, that, and when we have those conversations, it's always with compassion, because I think we've all had negative, bad experiences through that. But when we attach that and hang our hat on it and we just walk the other way, I always look like, yeah, but you're going to pay the price.
Right.
And that's something that I think that, I mean, I love that you have that drive to do that, because I think above all else, that's really what, even like when I love my Bible study teacher, she's epic, and she's like, God only asks one thing, and that's obedience. And He only blesses one thing, and that's your faithfulness.
Yeah.
And so when you start to realize that, and then how that looks today in the world, I mean, and I think a lot of people just don't want to change their lives.
I totally agree.
They just don't want to start changing things.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I will say that, I hung on to he was clearly taking my life in Oregon away from me, and I was refusing to let go because I hadn't really accepted what was happening.
Right.
And I was holding on to my salon for dear life. I mean, I was going to go.
Well, that was your
bankrupt,
identity.
Yes, it was my identity.
Yeah.
When I finally let it go, it's like everything changed. I wrote my book. When writing my book, it was seriously it was God's gift to me. It was me writing down, oh my gosh, I think He created me for this. I think this is my calling, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
That's probably the only reason I wrote the book. And since then, it has been okay, I'm going to obey you, because I wasn't obeying. I was hanging on still, and He was still making it happen anyway, despite my disobedience.
Yeah.
But when I finally said, okay, Lord, I believe You've called me into this, so I'm going to try to walk through the doors that You open and try to turn away from the doors that open that aren't from You. Just give me that discernment.
If it's from You, bless it. If it's not,
and
block it.
I've gone through plenty of doors that I thought, oh, this is God. I'm like,
This is
that was
me.
not God. That was not God.
I think we all have, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I'm still in a journey right now. It's 2023 going, okay, what are you doing with Patreon Barbie? Like I've gone and taken positions and I'm gone, oh, that's a distraction. Like he lets me know right away. That's a distraction.
You know what's funny, Lindsay? I have this. I mean, oh yeah, we could sit here for hours. But the one thing that I said the other day in my Bible study that I think just hit. I said it and I'm like, well, damn, that actually hits me.
Don't you love it when you say something? You're like, oh, it's from the Holy Spirit.
I know. And what I said was, is it my heart's desire or His desire for me? That was like something that like hit me when I said that, because same thing. I mean, I'm like, oh, I got to go this way, or I got to go this way.
Yeah.
And then Kathy, my sweet little Bible study, I love her. She said, when you wake up in the morning, most women, you look on the ground and you see all these broken pieces of pottery, and you think, I can help this. I can do this. She goes, but you got to look for the ones with your name written invisibly on it. That's what's for you. That's where God wants you. And it was so when she said that to me, and then I'm like, okay, so is everything that if an opportunity comes up or if something happens, of course, you always say, okay, God, is this You? Or just because it's good doesn't mean it's God.
Right.
And I'm just like, okay, hold on a minute. And then I'm like, is this my heart's desire or is it His desire for me?
Yes.
And when I sit that, then you got to sit back and then you're like, but I really want it.
Ooh, and I got some juicy for that. Okay, so I got some juicy for that. Gosh, I wish I would have brought my Bible. I have a verse. So in the Bible, it does say, love the Lord your God with all your heart,
Right.
and He will give you the desires of your heart. And we must believe that he's not going to call us into something that we don't love, right?
Right.
And so for me, losing my salon and all the money that came with it and
Yeah.
all the, the fame.
Well, it was significance for you.
Minor fame. It was
Yeah.
significant, and I felt successful, and my identity had been like, I'm a boss babe.
Yeah.
After I was obedient and started following God's heart, he changed my heart into loving what he was calling me to do.
Mm-hmm.
I am a public speaker, a podcast host, and an influencer. So weird. None of those things was I ever before.
Yeah.
Or ever thought I would be.
Yep.
And I went, all right, Lord, he keeps telling me to use my voice.
Yeah.
So I do it, and then it turns out I really love doing it. It's like he knew. He
Yeah.
knew. I've got
And let
something
me ask
better.
you this.
Don't worry about it.
It's probably effortless too.
It is totally
Yeah,
effortless.
that's something I try to explain, like some of the young kids when I coach them and they're trying to figure out what they want to do with their life and their parents are sitting on them as they do something. I'm like, whatever it is, number one, you would do it whether you got paid or not.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you could do it for hours and lose track of time.
Yep.
I said, and the last thing is it becomes effortless and it's an extension of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you know that this is where I'm supposed to be. And then it's that message of surrender and going, okay, just grow me.
Yeah.
Continue to give me what I need, whatever it is. And the other part I think that's really important that I think, especially in today's world, one takeaway that I love is that he put this on your heart, no one else's.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to get it.
No.
You know, and I think about that, like even what I do some crazy stuff, you know, I mean,
The
and you're,
Patriot Barbie.
I know,
Yeah.
but it's like, wait a minute, this was put on my heart and God says, you steward this, you run this out and I'll equip you with everything that you need. And then everybody around you goes, well, that doesn't make sense. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't make sense to me either, but I have faith and I know that
Yeah.
it's effortless. So I'm going to do it. And it's interesting, the judgment, because I'm like, and my comeback is always, it's okay. Because it wasn't on your heart, it was mine.
Well, and what a testimony, too.
Mm-hmm.
What a testimony that they can't see, like, what are you doing? And you're like, I am obeying the Lord of the universe.
Yeah.
And blindly
Yeah.
and faithfully and with joy. And then when they turn around and see you succeed,
See the fruit of it.
they see, that's so weird because I remember questioning what she was doing and she said, I'm following God.
Yeah.
And look what he's done.
Yeah.
When people come up to me and say, dude, you're on fire. Like, you're blowing up. I'm like, it's the Lord. Like, I haven't
Exactly.
changed.
I'm not
I've
taking
been
any
saying
credit.
the same thing for 3 years. I've been
Yep.
doing the same thing, just waking up and being myself.
Yep.
So what could you credit that to? I don't have a PR rep. I don't have anybody going to get me on
Right.
Tucker Carlson. Like, it's just me saying what I believe needs to
Mm-hmm.
be said and trying to follow the Lord's calling. So that alone, just our commitment
Yeah.
to doing what God's called us to do alone is a testimony.
Yeah.
And
I think a
then-
lot of people have a hard time because, you know, humanness, right? It's like all the people that you did life with before. You, in a sense, broke an emotional contract with them because, and I think that's something a lot of people don't understand. I'm like, well, you did because you were doing life on this vibration. Everything was good. You had exchanges back and forth where your talents, their money, everything was moving and grooving this way. And you broke that emotional contract and went to a different level.
Yeah.
And I think that most people that are there and get there, they have to look back and go, not everybody can go where you're going, and that's okay. You know, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I look at that too, and people that I've gone through my life, and I mean, I probably have 2 friends that have gone through every crazy thing I've ever done in my life and are still here to this day. And I get a phone call and their question, so what's up now?
Yeah,
what are you doing now?
What are you doing next? What are you doing next week?
Yeah, and I'm like, but they give you that grace and they remain consistent with you. But I think that's the biggest thing is when you break emotional contracts with people that thought you knew this way, and now you're like,
yeah.
I'm gonna go higher. I'm gonna answer those callings. And if you can't, that's okay. And they can't grasp the fact that I do still love you. I do want the best for you.
Right.
And nothing's changing in that way.
Yeah.
So in your relationship with your husband and your kids and kind of how life was, how did that shift?
Oh boy, I can't believe how well my husband handled the drastic life change.
Okay.
I mean, the kids were like 5, maybe 4, 2, and like a newborn when we moved to Arizona. So,
Okay.
so that was in September of 2020, right in the middle of cancel culture.
Why'd you pick Arizona?
My dad lived here, and my
Okay.
husband's mom wanted to move here.
Okay.
So we were like, yeah, just move to Arizona.
Sounds good.
It was another thing where we didn't consult God. It just kind of like, let's move to Arizona.
Let's go.
And then I listed my house the next day. So we moved here. The kids absolutely loved it. I mean, we moved into a house with a pool. So to them, they were like, what?
Disneyland.
Yeah, this is heaven. And the weather was beautiful. Like, it really does rain 300 days a year in Oregon.
Yeah, so
it's
you
quite
didn't
rough.
move
Yeah.
here in the middle of July.
We did not. No, we did come look at houses in the middle of July, and
Good.
my agent was like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "I'm sure."
We're good.
My husband, it's taken a couple years for him to really adapt and accept what I will just call Patriot Barbie, right?
Yes.
Because for a while he's like, "What is Patriot Barbie?" Like,
Yeah.
she's spending money to go to these election events and support politics, but like, what is she gonna do? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just
Which
a
is
babe.
the male. I want to have order.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he just kind of bore with me and like supported me and
He believed in you.
believed in me, yes. And I told him, I don't believe that what we went through was destroying our life. I believe that God meant it. So I cannot take something that no one else in America went through, no one, and then say, toss it aside and move on with my life.
But you have to
I use it.
deconstruct in order to be able to construct.
Yes,
Yeah.
I had to break down and go, it'd be like it would be like winning the lottery. It's rare, right? And you're going, oh, you wouldn't just ignore that cash.
Yeah, no.
You would ignore it.
It was an extremely catechismal event for you. Yeah.
Yes. And so I said, I believe that if we went through it, God is using it. And so I'm going to keep pushing forward with whatever this is that I'm doing until kind of, I guess, God maybe reveals the path. And I still don't know if it's fully revealed. I just believe that I'm in a really good place right now, being asked to speak at really big conservative, like women's luncheons and
Nice.
events like across the country, and going, oh my gosh, okay, I just need to make sure that when I'm on that stage, I am glorifying the Lord, bringing people to Christ, and sharing my testimony.
Yeah.
So I think that, if that's all it is, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because you walked it out. I mean, it was
Yeah.
you didn't. I mean, there was probably a level of resistance, like there always is.
100%.
Right? It's like, wait a minute.
There's still a level of resistance every morning. I'm like, all right, what am I doing today?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
for sure. Because we want to, as like your husband, I want to know the order of things. And
Yes,
it's
yeah.
like it's not always it's his order.
Yeah,
It's never our
yeah.
order. I think that's the biggest thing that we have to wrap our head around.
Yeah, there's been a lot of prayers that are like, I know you don't have to tell me, God, what you're doing, but if you could just give me a hint, that'd be great.
You need to know what to wear.
Just anything, yeah.
You know how to
but
prepare for
it's-
this.
But you know what? What an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I tell people, there is no pain, agony, hurt when you know your identity in Christ and you wake up every day and say, all right, if I'm careful and I live in the Spirit and I trust that I'm doing what God's telling me, not just kind of going rogue,
Yeah.
and I believe that God is going to open doors for me today, how exciting is that?
Yeah.
Like, I love surprises, but I'm like, every day is a surprise.
Yeah.
I have no idea what emails I'm going to get or
Where it's coming
what
from.
comments or what woman I'm going to be able to minister to on my Instagram.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think people are too, like you say, they're too worried about losing their life.
Yeah.
And I get on my knees and I say, thank you so much, Lord, for taking that life away from me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because everyone else
I don't miss it.
we're searching for security and significance but the security is really in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in that worldly part of it, right? Which
Yeah.
a lot of people can't walk away from that.
Right.
But I think the beautiful thing too, Lindsey, is you've got 3 little eyeballs
Yeah.
watching you,
Yeah.
right? Watching you go through this, and they learn through osmosis the strength of their mother. And when you go back on that, and they watch you, I don't care. I mean, I coach a lot of parents, and I always tell my parents, I'm like, you have to understand that if you can't possess, if you don't possess it, you can't seed it in your kids.
Right.
And when you possess it and you walk it out and it's authentically who you are, they learn that through osmosis. And of course, we're seeding them, right? The harvest will be down the road.
Yes.
But I think that's the biggest thing. So what do you want to leave? I mean, because I do a lot with Gen Z. What messages do you think you would leave Gen Z with today of your journey that you've gone through? Things little nuggets you would leave them along the way as they kind of start to go through? Because there's a lot. I know Isabel Brown did a great video the other day about Gen Z and everything that they don't even know if they can afford a house.
Oh my gosh.
They don't know all these kinds. It was a great video. But I always say Gen Z's built different.
Right.
I believe they're built for the storm. I mean, they have the most resources and their fingers are on everything. They just have to figure it out and get out of the victimhood.
Yeah.
What nuggets would you leave them if they were listening today and that you would want them to kind of tuck away for later?
Gosh, I would want them to first and foremost find their identity in Christ. Because once you know who you are, and that includes biology, That includes your characteristics, your talents, your gifts, your idiosyncrasies, your mannerisms, your belief system. God will reveal all of that to you if you just ask. And it's such a beautiful place to be when you know your faults and you still love yourself for them. You know what you're capable of doing to like disrupt your own life, what you could stumble upon because of who you are, but also to know what your strengths are and apply those to life. You can't get any of that from the world. What you're getting from the world is, hey, you were born in the wrong body. Hey, that hair color is not cool anymore.
Yep.
Hey, you're not dressing appropriately.
Yeah.
Hey, it's most important that you to live in a big house.
Your
not a
ankle's
small
fat
one.
and your thumbs are wrong.
Yeah, men can look like this, but women, it's okay for you to be obese. Like, you're just getting all this information. All of it's wrong, right? The magazines say be skinny. The society says you can be 300 pounds, and that's
They've been
beautiful.
lied to.
Yeah, but God will tell you who you are. Right. God will tell you. And that is all that matters. Even when I do things wrong, even when I know I've said or done things wrong, even if society were to call me out, I'm like, oh, well, that's a good call out, but I'm going to consult God about it first.
Yeah.
And I can admit when the Lord convicts me. It's like, what a different world to live in, where you're not answering to anybody except for the person that created you. So, I mean, that's first and foremost. Other than that, if something bad happens to you, I think make sure that you really understand that God is going to make that good. It's not the end of the world. It's rarely the end of the world.
Yeah.
If you're dying, maybe it's the end of the world.
The end of the earthly world.
It's the end of the earthly world. That's right.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm amazed at some of the things that I went through, how horribly painful they were at the time and continued to be for years and years, and how free God has made me in those, just by knowing that I'm using them for His glory.
That's true freedom.
Yeah.
It is
True freedom. Yep.
It is. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And more importantly, I really I love that you are out there, speaking out and talking in that way, because I think that we need more of that without the contrived, the manipulation. It's authentic.
Yeah.
And we know that, people can always, and the only thing I would say is I would love to invite you to change your thing from influencer to influential.
Influential. Ooh, okay.
I like that better. I mean, that's just my judgment. Because
that.
I believe influencers can be bought and can be put in different places to be spokespeople. I think what you're doing, Lindsey, is influential because you're walking it first and then you're backing it up.
Okay.
And I think that that's just it just hits different for me when you said that. I don't see you as, like, to me, a social media influencer is someone that's like I don't see
They
that
pose
with
on
you.
a lounge chair in a certain swimsuit with a certain color drink.
Tag me
with a
below and
filter.
let's grab one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't see that.
Okay, good, because I don't like that word either.
No,
so.
I love the word influential, and I always tell people just use that more, because that means that you're actually you can't. I mean, I can be paid as an influencer to talk about something.
Right.
You can't tell me and pay me to talk about my life with Christ.
That's right.
I lived it. I've earned it. It's a badge, and I want to share it. That's the influence that you have over people, and we all have a sphere of influence. And imagine how big yours is going to get. No, I love it. I do, and I'm so grateful for you to be here.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it so much.
Thank
So,
you.
and you guys, I cannot wait to link everything in here. We'll get everything from Lindsey for you, and if you want to reach out to her, I know she'll respond and go back and forth. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys soon. Please share this, like it, and whatever they tell you guys to do. Thanks. Thank you for joining us today on the TLM Method podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed the time that you've spent with us, and more importantly, I hope that we make you think. For more information about what we do, our work, and our message, please visit us at our website at officiallytraceymartin.com, and that Tracey is Tracey, or you can find us on Instagram at officiallytraceymartin. We look forward to having you with us for more episodes of the TLM Method podcast.